Hello. The episode will start shortly, but I just want to give a little message. There were two technical difficulties that we had during this stream. The first was that I was streaming from my local machine, and for some reason, the stream quality was really bad. And you'll see there's a lot of jittery video, it's dropping frames. I didn't realize how bad it was until about 10 minutes in, and that's when I started recording. So, about 9 minutes into this video that you're watching, the video gets a lot better because it's what I recorded locally without having to stream. Another thing was Ambrose's audio was not being recorded or streamed for the first minute or two. And so I just cut that part out. He was explaining about how he uses tmux with VI, with Vim, in the terminal. Sorry, that just is lost, but I just cut it out so you wouldn't have to watch him and not know what he was talking about. Luckily, we caught the tail end of that, and I'm sure you could ask him about it if you're interested. So we're still working out these technical issues. We're figuring out the tooling. So thanks for being patient, and stick around and enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome to Apropos. We're back, and we're technically enabled. This is a show about Clojure, and well, we're going to talk about Clojure. We have a panel and a guest today. I'll introduce the panel first. We have Mia, Ray, and I'm Eric. And our guest today is Ambrose. Hi, Ambrose. Thanks for agreeing to be on today. Awesome. So, we're not? Yeah, it's got a delay. The stream has a little delay from what is going on live. Mia, can I ask you to keep an eye on the chat? Awesome. So if you do have any questions, if you're watching live, throw them in the chat, and tell your friends about it so that they can watch live too. And I don't know, we'll just get started. The Discord that people wanted more special guests. So we got Ambrose today as our special guest.
And so I think Conjure is Neovim only. It's all written in Lua. I think it might be written in Fennel as well. But anyway, it was that's the one thing I'm jealous about Emacs is eLisp. Maybe not some of its semantics, but the fact that it's Lisp, Vim script has always been a bit of a, I have actually written Vim plugins before, but yeah, I've been using a Vim variant for probably 15 years at this point. I know a bit of Emacs. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell.
Do you object to Spacemacs?
No, that's if I were to use Emacs, I'd use Spacemacs. And in fact, my leader in Vim is space, and my leader in tmux is control space. So I'm basically using Spacemacs.
But
yeah, once I
Vim,
learned
Space Vim is
Space Vim, yeah. In Conjure, I do space EE to evaluate the top level form, and
so you're using Vim in tmux in a terminal.
Yeah, I use iTerm2 on my Mac, and I have different configurations for different OSs. But yeah, effectively, there's tmux plugins, there's Vim plugins, and
it's all running locally. You're not on a development server or something.
No. I think that might be the next thing that I want, because I'm a little seeing all these supply chain attacks
Mm.
it's gotten me
Mm.
very nervous about having everything on the same machine. I
Mm.
used to do a VM back in grad school. I had a local VM where I would. Um, I don't think I used Tmux back then, but I've used Mac OS for a long time, but I used to use a VM, and then. But if you've ever tried that as a daily driver, you'd know that Mac OS just has that polish that's hard to get away from. I want. I'm thinking of running a headless virtual machine that just exposes an SSH port, so then I can use Tmux from iTerm 2. So it's almost like it's running in Mac OS, but I can um, better sandbox things because I tend to try a lot of code from various corners of the internet, and
Mm. Yeah.
It
you
muddies
always
up your
just have to.
machine, your laptop, or whatever.
Yeah, and it's always and Mac OS's security and privacy settings are always changing a little bit, and they're not quite as granular as I'd like. I was just I live close to a library, and I got a big FreeBSD book, which I think I finished, but I just tried installing FreeBSD, and I realized that actually Graal VM doesn't run on FreeBSD, so
Ah. Oh.
that might be the nail in that coffin because Babashka
Yeah.
is pretty
Mm.
key.
Yeah.
There are alternatives. I think Joker and the ClojureScript based scripting ones. I think you can use them on FreeBSD. Um, there might be some way I can rewrite my scripts or maybe just run. I don't know, uh, but Bashka is it brings a bit of levity to your day to just run a script that you know that the semantics are sane. It, you can unit test the Bashka scripts. I don't know. I mean, it surprised me how strongly I felt like, oh no, I can't I can't use Babashka here. Maybe this is the end of this relationship, and it barely began. You know,
For sure.
You didn't even know your relationship was that strong with Babashka at that point, I dare say.
I don't think anyone did. Did you see the last Closure Conj? That big reveal of Bork Dude, where Alex revealed that
Yeah.
basically we're all obsessed with the Babashka. Like we all think we have a personal relationship with Babashka, but
Right? Over 90%
and
of
I
survey
think
respondents. Right?
Yeah.
Over 90%
and
of
I
survey
think
respondents.
yeah, it
Yeah.
yeah, it was something I can't be Babashka. To me that brings that's what's the last few years have been really exciting having these tools. Basically, I guess Graal VM is a big game changer for me.
Yeah.
I've been interested in uh, graphical, like Humble UI has been really interesting. Uh, I I wish there was some way to combine Humble UI with Graal VM, but I guess you can't have it all. Um,
Well, I think there will be eventually.
yeah,
I mean,
the,
Tonsi
If
said
anyone's
that,
watching,
I've
if
talked
anyone's
to him
watching,
about it,
yeah.
and he's like, yeah, eventually as a distribution model, he's kind of interested in using Graal VM as a package manager, but I don't think he's anywhere near like packaging it up yet.
it's really exciting. Like looking back the last few years and then projecting that amount of progress into the future, like just
Hmm.
we're all going to have our mind blown. Like there's just so many different things. Uh, like even just thinking about like Graal VM by itself, there's so many things we can do, but there are alternative platforms like Jank and Closures Together has been supporting that steadily for quite a while. But I think the Jank author has been doing that for like a decade, and it's just starting to come together. He's redesigned it several times, but you can sort of see it, I don't know, like triangulating to to its end design. It is super cool, and there's this frequently asked questions page on Clojure that basically, I think it was written probably 5 years ago or something, that says like, someone should go out and write a native Clojure because it would be a great educational experience. And yeah, there's not really an industry ask for it, so it doesn't make sense to invest a bunch of like corporate time into it. But to see one person answer that call and yeah, having all the fundraising through Clojures together and help that happen, I think it's a really cool direction that Clojure's going in the community.
So I think our
All
stream
right. That's
is
it. And we're gonna want to talk to you about closures together after
So that was
we.
all about my editor.
Yes,
That's
that was
right.
all about the editor. I
So
respect that is the most. I wasn't expecting to get that kind of answer
yeah,
for.
you should choose your questions wisely.
So
usually
can I stop us for a second just to talk? The stream is not doing well.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh.
It's people are saying that there's a lot of cutouts. I'm getting a lot of errors, like I'm not pushing enough data to the server, and so I don't know what to do. I can't change the stream settings like while it's going.
Did you
Maybe
press record on the
I
does it
just
record
just
as
like a
well as
minute
like
ago.
stream, Eric?
Just a minute ago, I pressed record just to not lose this.
Right.
Um,
We missed the first question. At least we can do a recording
we
and
can do
post that
yeah,
afterwards, you know?
yeah. I'm sorry to all the people watching if you can hear this. It's just saying there's not enough data.
We really thought we were going to abandon our traditional fumbling with the AV
Yeah, I don't
to
know.
start the new year.
I don't know what the
But,
problem is. Like
it is traditional.
even yesterday, I was having trouble on a Zoom call. People were saying I was cutting out. I have
It's a
pretty
bit like that right now, actually, Eric. Your network seems bad.
yeah. I'm not on Wi-Fi or anything. I'm on the wired internet. I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm just not the one who should be streaming.
Well,
go podcast.
What's that?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
maybe
I
I
don't-
can start streaming next time.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think we should switch.
No, not now. It's too late.
I don't
Okay.
think we should switch mid-flight.
Yeah.
No.
Let's keep going. Let's just go to the next question.
As long as you're hitting record, we'll
Yeah.
get Ambrose. We'll get the majority of the discussion. So,
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes,
let's just
we
plow
get-
on. Yeah.
Ambrose's very long and complicated editor setup.
If you missed it, you missed it. But it was pretty cool. I never heard
All
of it.
right.
Here's yeah.
No, it's like in my head, it looks a lot like the setup that the main antagonist had in Hackers. Like, I hope you have a lot of screens also.
Kinda. I guess you can see one in. Oh no, that's
Oh,
no, you can't see it.
the
I
reflection.
choose to believe.
there?
I choose to believe that you're staring at like a
Yeah.
wall,
like a beehive of
No, I'm looking at
screens,
you right
just like
now.
paneled. Yeah.
like keyboards in different orientations, so you don't have to move much. All right, what's the
It's
next
like a
question,
trading
Mia?
desk over there, is it? Yeah.
All right. Question number 2 is, what's your Clojure story? No one comes to Clojure without a story. It's not JavaScript. So,
All right.
how did you get here?
So I did a bachelor's in computer science in Western Australia, and I took a programming paradigms course where I think, what did I do? I did Lisp, Prolog, and F Sharp. And I asked my lecturer for a summer project and I guess I did Java the month the semester before, and he said, "Well, try Clojure. It's all these things." And then I needed a dissertation topic uh, for the next year, and I think at that point I'd already done a year of Clojure, but that's sort of when I decided to start my type Clojure project, and that's sort of when people would have started hearing about me around 2011 or 2012, and that's I came to Raleigh to give a talk on that. Uh, so a very I currently live in the United States, and it's very different uh, being a member of the community in a physical way. Like not I was temporally and physically separated from the Clojure community for a while, at the beginning. And definitely one of the high points of moving to the United States is the vibrant Clojure community. Uh, so yeah.
Mm.
That's very nice. Yes, we are someone who saw you speak at a Clojure meetup said we need to get Ambrose on the show. Uh, so when is the last time Clojure surprised or delighted you?
Um, well, I guess the delight uh, there's the technologically delighted and culturally delighted. And for me, the last year of having Clojure meetups in person has been amazing. It's what I've been chasing for years. And uh, we recently had a Christmas meetup where we sort of consolidated everything that we had done. And looking back, it was just seeing the people that the new friends I'd made, and I guess one thing that's really difficult about open source development is just not being in person with people, not physically interacting. And it just really struck me how different 2024 was from other years. And but maybe a bit drier, technologically, the interop stuff with Clojure 112, the param tags, or is it arg tags? I can't remember. Where you use the vector syntax to
Yeah, the param tags. Yeah.
yeah, param tags. And I was recently doing resolving reflection in a so the last meetup was about native Clojure, and I was interested in um, the foreign function interface that Java just added, and there's a Clang library called Clong. I assume that's Clojure and Clang. But
Brilliant.
yeah, there was the person who made Clong generated bindings to FFmpeg to encode audio from Clojure via all this stuff. And that library had a bunch of reflective calls. And
Right.
By bumping the Clojure version to 112, it was, yeah, like it was sweet. Like you could resolve every call without being like, oh, but like there was a lot of byte arrays, for example. Byte/1
Right.
was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
or higher order um, calls to constructors. I don't know, just something that's been the coolest new feature in Clojure, and it's been an absolute delight to use it. And I love how we've gotten. I guess it's just one ClojureCon keynote out of the design of that, because it was such a comprehensive design, and I asked Alex Miller about a particular corner case, and the way he answered, I was like, oh, I'm seeing the tip of this iceberg. Like I thought I like, because the thing I was interested in, like the field syntax. I don't know if people know, but the field syntax for Java calls is now changing. Currently you can put parens around a field, and it's the same as not putting parens around a field. Like say long slash max value, or whatever it is. Like
Yeah,
right now you
yeah.
can put friends around it, and it's still the same. But in probably the next version of Clojure, that's going to actually invoke what's inside of it. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, wouldn't that make method calls ambiguous and all that stuff? And it turned out there was actually something that couldn't be ported cleanly. It was like a backwards compatibility concern in this. But it was clear that after Alex started talking to me, like, oh wow, this was in development for a year for a reason. This was difficult, and it was interesting that the keynote was about whether to use stars or slashes or whatever. It was just there was just so much more to that. I'm really happy with the way, like, it would have been horrible to have to write 5 stars, like 5 star for 5 instead of 5/5. I'm really glad they figured that part out. But I think that was the least of their worries. Very impressive, and it gives that sort of fluency and joy that I was talking about with Babashka before. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I kind of have started to use some of the interop as well, some of the stream features, some of the stream sequential stuff, and it's like, oh yes, this is nice. This is what it should be like, yeah. And so definitely big kudos, yeah.
And we've got both of you, Ambrose and Ray, you both committed patches to 112.
Well,
right?
I don't want to be. I mean,
Was it a doc string? I can't remember.
My entry to that club is about 2 or 3 lines, so I don't want to. I don't want to stand on the same podium here.
My hit rate is about 1% with Clojure patches, but it's worth it. I have a fork of Clojure where I send PRs to myself, and I have like 30-ish. I ended up. I considered forking Clojure in a. I called it Future. It's still there. FUTJURE, and it was forward. It was. So I was thinking, I did consulting for a company way back, and they had a bug to do. I think it was Clojure 1.10 or 1.9, but as soon as it came out, it broke something, and then a point release was needed. But the patch, I think the patch was available. It was something to do with Java Beans. Anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying that it takes a lot to take a version of Clojure, put it, and then patch it, and then deploy it, and then use it in production. So I was thinking, we have tool steps, we have the Clojure source code, and we have the patch. How do we put that all together? So a few years ago, so Clojure's GitHub integration is a lot better now. It uses GitHub Actions, and I don't think it uses tools depths, but I figured out how to link up Clojure, as in the Clojure compiler and all that stuff, to tools depths. So you could say, I want this SHA in the Clojure repository. And then the idea would be, then if you had this, say, security patch that the core team wouldn't be able to merge due to whatever, like timetable reasons, then you could, without worrying about supply chain attacks, you could just fork Clojure, apply the patch, and then say, I'm going to use Clojure version git SHA. And it turned out that it works. You need to use a feature called prep, in tools depths to compile the compiler. Uh, yeah, I guess you have to use it's like a bootstrap thing. You use an older version of Clojure to run tools depths to then compile the new version of Clojure. I don't know how I got here, but
What was the question?
But
Yeah, what
it's
was the
cool. You're
question?
able to apply these patches independently of their development cycle as soon as they're ready. If you need that bug fix in production or something.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about trusting someone's compiled binary, because a Clojure
Right.
is a jar full of compiled bytecode. You can decompile it, but you're probably not going to. You're probably just going to trust it, right? So it's much better if you don't have to trust it.
And so you do it
But
yourself. You compile it yourself.
yeah, but it's you sort of swap one enemy for another because in order to compile it, you have to pull in Maven and all these plugins and all this stuff. So it's unclear if it was a full uh, overall win, but maybe in the future we could get rid of some of the extraneous dependencies, and um, that would be cool to just point at a SHA in the Git in the official Clojure Git repository, do some compilation without having to pull in any tools. Maybe I guess you have to trust the previous version of Clojure, but anyway, that's all pedantry that I found fun to sort of think about. Like uh, supply chain attacks were a pretty big topic in the last few years, so that I was thinking a lot about that, and obviously patching your languages are related to it. So you want to get the latest security patches, but also you don't want to expose yourself to a supply chain attack while
A
doing
malicious
it.
patch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How did so you said that 112 fixed the reflection warnings in Clong. How did it? Can you, if people want to, we'll post links to 112 and other stuff that we mentioned in the episode description when this is over.
Yeah,
But
there's a PI out there to I'm sure if you plug in FFmpeg Clojure or something and Clong, you'll find this open PR. But it's not that well. Actually, no. I think Clojure 111 could have resolved all the reflections, but you had to know the primitive form for classes, how to write the byte array using whatever it is, the close brace and
The L's and everything.
semicolon
Yeah.
and the capital B.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that you just wish you could just forget. But uh, and Clojure programmers starting in 112 will not have to learn this new syntax, right? And so that was one big one, is I could just write byte /1. I think maybe bytes sometimes works, but so one, it's kind of there's a dark art in Clojure, which is where are you allowed to put a tag to resolve reflection? So
Yes. Yes.
so there is one way that's 100% guaranteed to work, which is let bind something and tag the let binding, right? That will work regardless of whether the thing you're tagging supports metadata, whether it's a macro or anything like that. Like, so you can't tag a keyword that will blow up in some elaborate reader error, like way before the compiler, because you can't attach a tag to a keyword, for example, or a number. Anyway, back to yeah. So okay. So you don't need to worry about the old syntax. You have to introduce a lot of functions as well to. Oh no, it's the other way. Instead of having to So say you're mapping over a list of things and you're constructing uh, a Java object out of it. You no longer have to wrap it in a fun. You can just
Mm-hmm.
use it as a higher order function, and that itself, you've unlocked the power of higher order functions. Like that,
Yeah.
we all know how much that means. So you can leverage that in so many places, and that wonderful feeling of trying to refactor something where you realize that something that's 10 lines is actually two, and then I can actually delete this or something. It's just like it helps in that refactoring process, that simplification or decomplecting, or like it's just one more feather in the refactoring cap for closure. Often to learn a library, I try and rewrite it, and using or I refactor it, I guess, using my knowledge of the latest features of Clojure, being like, oh yeah, in 1.3 this happens, so you don't need this and whatever. And so yeah, and the best refactorings are ones that get rid of parens. Or well, yeah, the best ones are where you delete the entire program, I guess. But getting rid of a paren is usually a good thing. And yeah, so it was frustrating in prior versions of Clojure, realizing that you've come up to a barrier where you couldn't do something elegantly about resolving reflection. And I don't think those exist anymore for the 80% case, that there are various, I think there's maybe some stream related things that still aren't perfect, but for just resolving methods and constructors and things, the tools are there and they're baked in and they're not going away. So yeah, that feeling, it's the feeling of power, like of expressive power that I don't know, it's really fun using it. I don't know, you should all try it.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna just go and find some libraries and rewrite them.
Yep, but clone them in FreeBSD.
No, I can't, because then I can't do GraalVM.
Yes.
All right, question number 4. You have to choose one. You can define monad or transducer.
I'm thinking of writing a coffee table book on transducers.
Coffee table
A
book?
picture book.
Oh no!
A picture book? Oh wow.
Like,
Here, wait, you have
yeah.
Can you draw it? Draw. You have a whiteboard. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Oh
This will
my
be
God.
fun.
Do I have the worst colors for this?
We can see
Is
it.
that
We can see it.
legible?
We can see.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can drag you guys over here a bit. Which is the better color?
The first one.
The top
first
one, yeah,
one?
I can't see the bottom one at all.
Oh man, yeah, let's, okay, so, a transducer, something that takes two things, it takes something in and gives you something out. It's very much like a function, in that a function, like here's the type for ink, like takes an int and returns an int, and this is the in, and this is the out, and there's this concept in type theory called variance, and it's basically about inputs and outputs, and there's this convention of using a plus for covariance, and that is an output, and a minus for contravariance, which is an input. So for functions, let's see. So if you're calling inc1, sort of the input is this contravariate position, and the output is sort of this whole thing. This is the plus. And the cool thing about variance is it's all in the eye of the beholder. So because I'm the one looking at ink, I get to decide, well, actually this is backwards, right? Because for me, one is an output. I'm outputting one. So actually one is being output to ink.
You're
And then,
outputting it, yeah. And ink is inputting it.
ink is inputting it. So let's talk about transducers. So in is an input, and out is an output. I don't think I have an eraser, so this will be a one-time job. Okay, so a transducer is actually a function, is itself a function of it's a function of one argument. So it takes a reducer, and this is still, yep, and then returns a reducer. And all right, here's where it gets interesting, because from our perspective, we're calling a transducer. Okay, no. Yeah, this is, oh my God. So the output reducer is the input to the transducer, and the input. So this is actually the output, and this is the input. Okay, so here's where my idea for the book. So I think that this is a sufficient abstraction for most users, right? The fact that transducers are like functions, and that they take in something and return something. And in fact, this is an implementation detail that you don't need to care about. So, but
then what makes a transducer different from a function?
It is a function. It's
what makes
function,
it what
special,
kind of function is it? Yeah,
it has different calling conventions, and I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but here's my idea, that you can say that. So if you used transducers before, you know that the comp function is the main way of combining
a chain of transducers.
Changing transducers, right? And there's this really confusing. Everyone's already used comp before for functions, so there's this question: how does comp work for both functions and transducers? And I don't think that's the right question to answer. I think what needs to be taught is that comp has two roles, and that's the abstraction. That there's basically a comp for functions, and there's a comp for transducers, and their implementations happen to be comp, right? Okay.
Right. Okay.
So everyone knows about comp for functions. So if I'm writing the type for comp, let's see. So it's B to C and A to B,
right,
and gives A to C. Okay, now back to the pluses and minuses. The trick for pluses and minuses, every time you go to the left of an arrow, it switches, and you start with pluses. Okay, so this is all a plus. So plus, left to an arrow, minus, left, minus, plus, and then minus plus. Okay, so is this right? Well, let's see.
Between A and C, you didn't really have an arrow.
Yeah, so I will draw that arrow now with one rule, which is connect the variables that have the same name from minuses to pluses, from inputs to outputs. Okay, so A to A. So let's instantiate this comp stir inc, right? So A to A is me calling this with 1.5 A to A, which is here. Now, now we were able to have a B, which is going to be 1, right? Now connect that up to the plus. Hello, yeah, 1 stir, and then C minus hello, and then that's going to be where we get 1.
Wait,
okay.
I think you started with 1.5. Shouldn't you have 2.5 as your ink?
Yeah, sorry.
I think you mean deck, not ink.
I meant int.
Oh,
int.
int.
Yeah, I did. I meant int. Yeah.
Okay.
So here A is int, B is stir. No, and C. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All that matters is what you just. Does this make sense?
The question is why are you drawing
Luckily,
these arrows?
we've recorded it for posterity, so people can examine this in future situations. Yeah.
I think that Alex, you have to wait your turn. Alex is answering it in the chat. Alex, you can diagram this.
Yeah, when you're on the show. Yeah.
The reason
Get your whiteboards
I'm
ready,
drawing
people.
this is to explain comp F, and your question was about comp T, right?
Yes.
And I refuse to talk about reducers. So this is my way of doing it without talking about reducers. Okay. So
why do you refuse to talk about reducers?
Do you want to talk about reducers? Why would anyone want to talk about reducers?
If it makes it easier to explain. But we'll see when it's Alex's turn. We'll see how he does.
So for a comp T, it takes a transducer from A to B and a transducer from B to C, and gives a transducer from A to C.
Mm-hmm.
And this is plus, minus, minus. That's right. Yeah, okay. So if you do the same trick again, what happens is you call it in the other direction. C to C. So comp, this is map of int, and then map stir. And yeah, but before we did comp of stir int, right? So to translate this to transducers, you do int stir. And I think this, having two different types of comp in your head, I think is it's definitely a different way of explaining it. I actually don't know how you'd explain someone where they understand in their bones why comp composes transducers, because it backwards, because it's very technical. It's very much about higher order functions taking more functions, and at some point it just sort of flips itself inside out and starts, going forwards, instead of so this is what my picture book would look like, basically, is
something to flip through when you're
Let
sitting
me
on
know
the
when it's
couch.
out. I want to read it to my son.
Thank you, Ambrose. Thank you. I
Thank
think
you.
I think I
Thank
get
you.
it. I get what you're trying to say. Is it's this weird argument order thing. Um,
Yeah, which is an implementation detail, I think. We could just as well have a comp that's called something else, like
chain or something.
educt, you know? Uh, yeah, chain. It just so happens to have the same implementation, and it's a neat trick, which I don't know is important to understand to use transducers. In fact, I don't I don't think it would have been if it was important to understand why comp composes transducers at a sort of base level, then I don't think it would have been designed that way. I think the elegance is that you don't need to understand why comp works like this. You just need to know how thread last works and how to replace thread last with comp. You know, that's the intuitive, that's the beauty, right?
Right.
And to explain transducers by breaking um, that advantage, I think that there's you're losing, you're obfuscating something that um, you only need to learn years down the road when you make your own transducers, and that's a big, that's a big if. Like whether who's going to write their own transducers? People who already understand transducers. Most people are going to use transducers. Those who use them have to deal with this weird comp thing, and I don't know if this is. The thing I like about this is that it solves itself once you give once if you just say that transducers compose the other way. I think that's probably enough for 99% of users of transducers.
Yeah, I think that works. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that
so.
actually, that's
Maybe there's a similar argument for monads that would stop monad tutorials from happening.
well,
I don't
if
know.
you think about them like a burrito, then
Ah.
Yeah,
no, I'm
Burrito.
delighted. Question four will stay. Question four is a permanent question on the guest questionnaire. Everyone's gonna have to do this.
Yeah. We had assumed that most people would just count it as a joke and move on,
Yeah.
but this is great that we've actually
We
got
actually got
a
it.
valid
No,
answer,
it's
an
not
actual
me.
valid answer. This is awesome. Yeah.
So far, we've nerd sniped you on every question.
That's
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
This is great. This is
You're the
delightful.
target audience for
Yes.
this
That's right.
questionnaire.
That's right.
Ambrose.
All right. So, and we are running out of time. But this is probably the most important one, which is, do you have anything to plug or anything that you're excited about that you want other people to know about? Maybe things you've been working on.
I've been working on an extension to Mali that Closures Together has been funding. Um, it's I'm sure most people have used keys in spec before, and you can do like these interesting ands and ors of, conjunctions, disjunctions of things, these sort of constraints on key sets. And Mali doesn't have anything like that. You can only do optional keys or mandatory keys.
This is actually, I love that you're doing this. I need this.
Yeah, I think I don't think once this, you won't be able to go back, once you can do this. I just posted it on the Mali Slack, and someone said, I'm going to use this so much. And they said, once you have an open map, it doesn't just end up being open, it ends up being, the constraints are much more subtle. Like, I have some examples that everyone can relate to. So when you do a depth Eden map, right? Depth Eden dependency, right? You got the Maven dependencies, you got Git dependencies. So there's a couple of rules. You can't mix Maven and Git fields, right? So it's an open map, but if you put Maven version and Git sharp, it doesn't make any sense. And also, Maven version can't can't exist with git char, with git tag, with local root, all this stuff. And there are sort of these groups of disjoint keys, these key sets that should be disjoint. And so, yeah, I'm just going to give a few motivating examples of why you'd want this. And yeah, that's so. For example, you don't want Maven keys and Git keys to coexist. So I think there's been some really big world records in the original Mario Brothers Nintendo Entertainment System thing, but it got me thinking. I think there's a hack, or that there's a no. If you play enough with your NES controller, you can wear down the D-pad, so then you can press left and right at the same time, or something like that. There's like a thing.
A glitch.
Yeah. And it's like a hardware thing where I think they've legalized it actually, where just to level the playing field, because the hardware is so old that people can just do left and right simultaneously. But if you're writing a spec for a D-pad, you might want to say, I'm not allowed to do left and right and also up and down. And that's an interesting thing, because it's not that you can also do up and left and up and right, but that's actually two distinct constraints that are conjoined. So you want both. You can't do left and right, and you can't do up and down. And it's similar to like you can't mix Maven and Git things.
Okay, so what's the problem? What's the problem with just saying that these are alts in that case? So where is the issue?
Alts? What does that mean?
Well, they're just different things. They're okay. This is a cluster of keys that belong to this thing. So they're either, it's like an or.
Yeah.
So they're either or they're a Git thing or they're a Maven thing, and that's sufficiently exclusive to. So what's the motivation not just to have that? Because that already exists. It ends
up being more like an and than an or,
right?
Because the way you combine things, you can't actually write an or that gets all the combinations. It's I don't know, maybe that if I talk through the D-pad one, like with the D-pad one, you have 4 optional directions and you have these additional constraints on them, but say
if
it were an alt, you'd have to do all 8 directions, and I guess you just omit the ones that aren't allowed.
Legal, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it becomes more cumbersome to write it all out. Yeah.
And the D-pad only has 4 directions, so if it's something like an open map that can grow indefinitely, and practically it, I think that's enough to motivate the problem, like the Depp's Eden thing. And I'm sure anyone in a production system can think of, there's another interesting one. So if you do a tag, you have to put a char. So that's an implication. Implication is true if the first thing is true and the second thing is true, or the first thing is false. So if you put a tag, you have to put a char. If you don't put a tag, then you don't have to put a char. And if you do put a char, you don't have to put a tag. So that's an implication. So there's sort of these logical connectives that are missing in constraining key sets. And I think that I guess how much time do we have? We're almost over, right?
Yeah, we're almost at the end.
Yeah.
We can take another 5 minutes.
Yep, we have. We're trying to keep these to an hour. So
I guess
we've been streaming for 55 minutes now.
I've been working on this for like 4 months, and during that time, I saw Alex Miller's keynote, and it made me think about my own design process about this and reflect on it, because it was very different from the Excel spreadsheet. It was much more like, here's a problem, let's do a big prototype and really zone in and and find all the problematic areas. So it turns out that this has really big implications for generating values, for explaining and humanizing things. And there are, it's basically you're adding expressivity that makes it difficult for other extensions or to like translate it to say JSON schema or something like that, like these implications. It's, you know, but yeah, in the beginning, I did this big prototype and then decided to propose it for closures together. And then that got accepted, and I ended up giving a talk at my local user group that sort of bootstrapped me back into the process. And it was about a 2-month span between finishing that proposal and picking up that talk again. So it was like this big spike of, you know, not really thinking about design. I sort of bolted on this feature onto Mali, and then the rest of the time was this interesting cycle of iterating, of decomplecting and decomposing. I basically decomposed the problem into much smaller pieces that the whole solution ended up being, I really wanted to constrain myself to something that felt like Mali. And what my initial prototype was, it felt like an extra system. And there's a pull request open right now. It's 1161 for Mali, if you want to check it out. And it's just schemas. It's just use the AND schema to conjoin on these extra constraints. And that has big implications for things like generative testing, because the way that generators work in Spec and Mali is that you generate the first schema and then you filter out things that are not accepted by the rest of the schema. So it's actually like a probabilistic generator that can randomly fail. So if you have this very specific constraint that test check can't find, your test suite will just blow up. So I wanted to it was sort of like one step forward, 2 steps back sort of thing, where I or like, you know, hitting Gophers, where I had so many different problems. And I just had to be like, okay, I've just got to concentrate on one thing and have the faith that I can bring in the insights from all this prototyping. So right now I'm just adding schemas, and then I need to go back and fix the AND generator, which, you know, that's not an easy thing. That's anyway, if people are excited about that, they can check it out in the Mali Slack, and I'll probably continue to iterate on it. And I think I'm writing up my final closures together a report for this. So yeah, I'm wrapping up this work at the moment, and yeah, okay, I should stop there.
All right,
That's
well,
great.
thank you. And we have hit 60 minutes.
Yeah. So
we have
Ambrose,
one last question, which is nominate a guest.
yes.
Ambrose, who would you like to see on
I got 3.
Apropos?
I think you should ask Eric, and I know Cyan. She's really big into model theory, accessibility, LLVM, and just she's a closure programmer. But when you give her a closure problem, she has such a rich background and taps into so many different things. Really, you know, it's always great to talk with Cyan. There's this guy, Paulo Fiodripe. If you Google Vibe, VYBE closure, Vibe closure, he's made this closure Clojure game framework. And I learned about this via Overtone because his game framework uses Overtone. And he's doing really interesting things, like embedding. I actually don't understand what he's done, but I think he embedded Clojure in a synthesizer or something. I just want to know what he did. I don't understand it, and it's in the Overtone Slack if you just go up a little bit. Oh yeah, so last one is the Clojure Goes Fast guy, Alexander. I've worked with him a lot last year. He got funded for Clojures Together this year, so he's been doing his own thing. Yeah, he does so much cool stuff. I'd love to know, to catch up with him to know what he's up to. So I'm sure you guys would too.
All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Ambrose. Where can people follow what you're doing online?
I guess I post most frequently on the Marley Slack. I think I've been very much in a creator mode at the moment, so I'm not really in a sort of output mode. My website is ambrosebs.com, and there's a blog there that I occasionally post to. Probably the most luck you would have is following the calendar for the Madison Clojure group, madclj.com, madclj.com. We're always having interesting discussions. If you want to be involved in that, you could probably convince me to live stream those as well. And we give fun talks there. And yeah, that's in practice. That's probably how you'd keep up with my work and the Clojures Together ecosystem, I guess. I've last year I did Composure API and Mali. I think I might have done some schema work and Ring Swagger. So I've been doing lots of things with Clojures Together as well.
Fantastic.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone who joined us live. We're sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully, we'll have less of those in the future.
We'll figure it out. This is
we're getting there.
If we've been not producing a lot of shows, it's because of technical difficulties. It was easy when we had Google Meets that would stream to YouTube, and now we've just been experimenting and failing and flailing with lots of different stuff. So,
but this year's our
we're
year.
gonna get it. We're gonna figure it out.
All right. We will see everyone.
We're going to compose the right way.
We will see everyone again January 28th. I believe that's the next.
That's right. 2 weeks.
Next Tuesday.
2 weeks. Yeah.
And we're going to have Zach Tillman on. So
awesome.
See everyone on January 28th. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you so much, Ambrose, for joining us.
Hit subscribe. All right. Bye.
Bye.